weight of the mountain. I am T'Challa, son of T'Chaka. Some call me king, some the Black Panther. I have held both titles. I have worn the crown and the mask. They feel the same. They are heavy. They press down on you until you forget the shape of your own face. You see me now, and you see a king. You see Wakanda, our golden city, a paradise hidden from the world. You see technology you cannot dream of, and a strength you cannot measure. You see a legacy, an unbroken line. But when I look at myself, I see a boy who was not ready. I remember my father. He was more than a man to me. He was a mountain, unmovable, permanent. He was the sun that rose over Wakanda every morning. You never question the Sunday, you just trust that it will be there. He was the story we told ourselves, the story of our perfection, our strength, our isolation. He taught me that to be king is to be the shield. To protect our people, you must first hide them. The world outside, he would say, is a storm, and a wise man does not invite the storm into his home. I believed him. It was easy to believe. I grew up in paradise. I ran through fields of green, under a sky that was always blue. I listened to the drums at night and felt the heart of my nation beating with my own. My sister, Shuri, would invent wonders in her lab, and I would train with the Dora Milaje, learning the dance of the spear. It was a perfect life, a simple life, in its own way. My path was clear. I would be king. I would be the panther. I would be my father. And then, in a moment, the mountain fell. Vienna, an explosion, smoke and fire. I remember the sound, a roar that swallowed all other noise. And then, a silence that was even louder. I ran. I pushed through the rubble, through the dust that tasted like ash and endings, and I saw him, my father, the mountain, broken, the sun, extinguished. In that moment, there was no king, there was no Black Panther, there was only a son who had lost his father, and there was a rage inside me, a fire that burned away everything else. All I wanted was vengeance. I put on the mask, not as a king, but as a hunter. I chased the man I thought was responsible. I did not care about justice. I did not care about right or wrong. I cared only about the release that would come from ending him. I was wrong. About him. About everything. That was my first lesson. That rage is a blindfold. It narrows the world down to a single point, and you miss everything else. When I returned home, I had to take his place. I had to perform the ritual. Drink the heart-shaped herb. It is a poison that gives you strength, or it kills you. That is the choice, power or death. There is no in-between. I drank it, and my body was torn apart, and then remade. I felt the strength of every panther before me flowing into my blood. I felt a power that could shatter stone, but that is not what I remember most. I remember the journey to the ancestral plane. It was home. The sky was purple and filled with stars I had never seen. And he was there, my father, waiting for me. He looked as I always remembered him, strong, calm, a king. He told me I was ready. He told me it was my time. And I felt like a child again, telling my father I was not ready. I told him I was not him. He just smiled, and he said, "A king must stand on his own." I woke up, and I was the Black Panther. I thought I understood the weight then. The weight of the suit, the hum of the vibranium in my veins, the weight of the crown. I thought it was about protecting our borders, about keeping our secrets. I thought my test was over, but it had not even begun, because our secrets had secrets of their own. My father, the mountain, the perfect king, he had made a mistake, a terrible mistake. He left a child behind, in a cold and broken world far from home, his own blood, my cousin. He left him to suffer, to fend for himself, all to protect our perfect lie, to protect Wakanda. The truth came to me from Zuri, the man who was like a second father, He told me the story of my uncle, Njobu, who saw the suffering of our people around the world and wanted to use our power to free them, and my father, who saw this as a betrayal. They fought, and my uncle died, and my father left his son, a boy named Njadika, an orphan. He left him with nothing but the rage that comes from being abandoned. That rage grew, it festered, it became a weapon, and one day it came home. He came to Wakanda not as a stranger, but as a ghost, a consequence. He called himself Killmonger, and when I looked at him, I did not see a villain. I wish I had. It would have been simpler. No, when I looked at him, I saw the truth. I saw the price of our paradise. He had the same fire in his eyes that I felt when my father died. The same righteous anger. He had suffered in a way I had never known. He had seen a world that I had been sheltered from. And everything he said, as much as it hurt me to hear it, it was not entirely wrong. We had the power to help, to heal, to change things, and we hid. We watched from our perfect city while the world burned. He challenged me for the throne, and he defeated me. He threw me from the top of the waterfall. As I fell, the water rushing past me, the world turning to black, I did not just feel the pain of my body breaking. I felt the pain of my beliefs breaking. My father was not perfect. Wakanda was not perfect. And I had failed. I should have died. But I was found by the Jabari, a tribe that had turned its back on our ways. They lived in the mountains, in the cold. They saw us in the golden city as soft, as lost. And their leader, Mabaku, he saved my life. He showed me a different kind of strength, not the strength of technology, but the strength of will, of survival. My family found me, my mother, my sister, Nakia, Okoye. They brought me back, they healed me. But the man who woke up was not the same man who had fallen. The boy who worshipped the mountain was gone. In his place was a man who saw the cracks in its foundation. I had to take back the throne, not just for my family, but for my people, for the world. Because the fire in Killmonger's eyes, the fire my father had ignited, it would not just burn our enemies, it would burn the world. It would burn us, too. We fought again, brother against brother, panther against panther, not just with claws and fists, but with ideas. He stood on one side of Wakanda's soul, and I stood on the other. He screamed for justice, for retribution. I fought for a different way, a path forward. In the end, I won. The fight ended. He lay there, in my arms, the life fading from him, the vibranium spearhead in his chest. I took him to see the sunset. The sunset he had only heard stories about. He told me his father had described it as the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He looked at it, and he told me to bury him in the ocean with his ancestors who jumped from the ships because they knew death was better than bondage. He chose death over healing, over a home, because the hurt was too deep. The cage was all he had ever known, and he would rather die than return to one, even a golden one. I held him, my cousin, the part of us we had abandoned. And in that moment, I knew my father was wrong, and Zuri was wrong, and all the kings before them were wrong. A shield can protect you, but it can also become a prison. A wall that keeps others out also keeps you in. We had been in a beautiful cage for centuries, and the time for cages was over. That is why I did it. That is why I went before the world and told them the truth. I opened our borders. I shared our knowledge. I knew the risks. I knew the world was a storm, but you cannot live your life hiding from the rain. Sometimes you must walk in it. You must learn to build something stronger than a wall. You must build a bridge. I have seen the consequences. I have fought alongside heroes from other worlds. I have seen gods and monsters. I have watched half of all life turn to dust. I have felt myself turn to dust, and I have returned. The world I chose to join is filled with as much pain as I feared, perhaps more. And there are days I lie awake and wonder, did I make a mistake? Did I betray my first duty, to protect Wakanda above all else? I go to the ancestral plane sometimes. In my sleep, I see him, my father. I am no longer the boy asking for his approval. I am a man, asking for his understanding. I tell him what I have done. I tell him about his other son, our lost son. I tell him that I am trying to be a good man and a good king, and that I have learned the two are not always the same thing. He does not speak, he just watches me, the unmovable mountain. But now I see him differently, not as something perfect and permanent, but as a man who made a choice. He chose fear. He chose to protect what he had at any cost. I have made my choice. I choose hope. I choose to believe that we are stronger together than we are apart, that a bridge is better than a shield. It is a harder path. It is a more dangerous path, and I do not know where it will lead. I am T'Challa, son of T'Chaka, king of Wakanda, the Black Panther. But under the crown, under the mask, I am just a man, trying to correct the mistakes of a father I loved, trying to build a future for a people I would die for. And I do not have all the answers. I just have the weight of the choices I have made, and the hope that they were the right ones.